Hello, I'm Mark Ells, Town Manager in Barnstable. And I'm going to begin a series of communications through Channel 18 using Zoom to be able to talk about what's going on in our community as we move forward with certainly what we have grown to know as normal business, which certainly isn't the way we used to do things, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days ago. We've used Channel 18 and programming to be able to communicate with our public. We've paused for a little while as we've moved into the management of certainly this COVID-19 situation. And I'm going to resume these communications at least weekly or more often. Certainly, we've been following worldwide, nationwide, within our state, how this issue and this situation has progressed. We've listened to our governor daily at times talk about the impacts and the decisions, and he's issued directives and orders relative to this situation. And it's important that you know that as your town manager and certainly the other officials within our community recognize and follow those orders of our governor. And one in particular is related to our public schools. And here today I have our Superintendent of Barnstable Public Schools, Meg Mayo Brown, given the order that the governor extended recently, but even prior to that, the actions of our public schools are of great interest to our community, whether you have children in the school system or not. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Meg to share with you all how our public schools have managed this issue, how they're going to go forward with managing it, and how they will resume public schools in the future. And so, Meg, thank you so much for attending this discussion with me.
Hi, Mark. It's great to be on with you today, and I appreciate the opportunity to continue to talk about what the school system has done and what our thinking is about how we'll continue to move forward in this new context. So just to remind folks, we did close schools on March 13th. That was in advance of the governor's closure of all Massachusetts public and private schools later in the following week. Our reasoning for closing our schools was on the advice of our school physician, Dr. Katie Rudman, as well as others, there was a sense that the virus was present on Cape Cod, and that we wanted to protect our students, their families, and our staff members. So we made the decision to close on Friday, March 13th. That following week, much of our efforts were devoted to a couple of things. One, doing a lot of communication. I think I was sending out daily communication to our families and to our staff members around, because I had made the commitment, if we were aware of a positive case in our school community, that we would communicate that out. We also served as a resource in terms of sharing with families who needed to self-quarantine, who did not. We had in Barnstable, for example, Barnstable Community Innovation School, that entire school community, parents, students, and staff members needed to quarantine for 2 weeks because of a potential positive case. So that first week of closure was pretty heavy duty on communication. But behind the scenes, we were also planning on what does remote learning need to look like for Barnstable Public Schools, and how do we make that, how do we launch that in a very effective way? So that was going on as well. And then, so, one of the questions I get was, well, why was there no at-home learning that first week? Well, there was no at-home learning that first week because those weeks in our school calendar, now this differs from community to community, but in Barnstable, that first week were considered our snow days, if you will, right? So when the school committee approves the school calendar, one of the things that they're required to do under state regulations is to add an additional 5 days. Usually they're for inclement weather, or we often refer to them just casually as our snow days. So we use those snow days because one of my priorities is to make sure that we're taking care of not only our students in this context, but our teachers and our staff members. I mean, everyone, I think during that first week had to really come to grips with what was coming and what they needed to do to take care of themselves and their family members. So that was really that first week of March, which was, I think, March 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, right? So then the following week, March 23rd, we were ready to go with our remote learning in terms of enrichment. So I would appreciate it if folks would think about our remote learning plan. The first 2 weeks were considered enrichment, and that was by and large from the Commissioner of Education saying, okay, so the governor's closed schools until probably early April at that time. So the commissioner was advising school districts across the state to do enrichment opportunities, thinking that we're maybe coming back in early April. So we launched enrichment opportunities, and I really want to thank our teachers and other educators for doing that work, because it would be easy just to say to parents, oh, go to this website, go to that website, watch PBS. We didn't do that. What we did is said, okay, what have our students already learned in each grade level? Okay, what can we offer our families to do at home that aligns with what our students have already learned, to go deeper, to build upon that? So that was the 2-week enrichment phase that we were in. Then after those 2 weeks, then when it was clear that the governor had then said, okay, all schools are going to be closed until May 4th. Well, then now school districts needed to launch into more of a shift from this enrichment learning to remote learning. So that's when we started to post remote learning opportunities on our website. We wanted to be sure that every student had technology at home. We had enough Chromebooks. As you know, Mark, our high school students are already one-to-one Chromebooks from grades 8 through 12. So we knew kids had devices that they could use at home for those grade levels. We dismantled all of our Chromebook carts. We put the notice out to all of our families and our students from grades K to 7 to say, if you don't have enough technology at home, if you don't have a computer, or if you're going to need an additional computer because your parents are working professionally remotely from home and they need the family computer, we want to provide devices to our students. So we were able to get all of our Chromebook devices out. Any family that has said to us, we need a Chromebook, we've been able to provide those. So we're really proud of that effort. So once we could be assured that all of our students had their Chromebooks, the next phase with this remote learning plan was to, by grade level, set clear teaching and learning expectations. Teachers were to establish their remote learning classrooms. Students need to engage on a daily basis. There are assignments to be submitted. Students are receiving, depending on the grade level, it could be credit, no credit for coursework. Our high school students are receiving pass, fail, and we've got sort of a complex way for calculating out final grades with that. But we really want the message to be to our families, school is not closed, we're just doing it differently. Students can't come physically to school, but our expectations around teaching and learning are there. And beginning May 4th, we'll launch this third phase of our remote learning plan, which shifts more into what are the essential areas of content. We call them learning standards, but what are the essential areas of content that our kids absolutely need to know? And that's the new learning that we're going to focus on from March 4th to June 18th. And then in terms of really trying to understand, we know we need to do something in the summer. So we're already having conversations. How can we continue to do teaching and learning through the summer so that our students aren't experiencing any sort of learning loss as a result of our schools being closed? So we need to do some summer programming. So we're thinking about that now. We're also sort of anticipating that we may need to do school differently in September. If you watch what Denmark has done, for example, they've brought students back physically to school, but students are engaged in physical distancing. They're wearing masks. You know, there's been talk of when we bring students back, do we need to do it in a staggered fashion? So not all kids arrive at school on the same day. So we are in the process of doing some contingency planning. Okay, so what would it look like if we still needed to have physical distancing in September? What does that look like in a classroom? What does that look like on a school bus? What does it look like if students will we need to take, for example, the temperature of students as they enter school buildings? That's something that's been talked about as well. So there's a number of areas that we really need to unpack and have different scenarios based on the guidance that would be coming from the state in terms of how to reopen schools and what actions do superintendents need to take.
Yeah, well, significant change, certainly, from the traditional classroom and means of, getting there and then participating after school. So, uh, what can you say to seniors, Meg,
Oh,
relevant to this significant change in education for them?
I think what I want to say to seniors is that I am so sorry that this is happening to them in their senior year. I mean, senior year is often such a special time for our seniors in terms of all the milestones that they've looked forward to and that they would be going through. We're intending to continue to focus on our seniors and try and determine ways in terms of what's possible to still have this year be very meaningful and special for them, although that may look different. I know that Principal Clark sent an all call to families last night in terms of that he's launching a task force comprised of parents and students and teachers and administrators to say, how can we best recognize our students, our seniors, given that we won't be able to have a traditional prom, we won't be able to have a traditional graduation at this point. So depending on what things look like in June, Mark, in terms of will we still be under the restriction of gatherings, in terms of 10 or fewer, that certainly impacts what can happen for graduation. I think we're trying to move away from thinking about a virtual graduation, much like what we're doing, and trying to figure out a way, how can we do something more in person? Again, I can't imagine any circumstance that it would look like what it's looked like in years past. But I know there have been some pretty creative ideas coming forward to us in terms of, could you think about this? Could you think about that? So we'll take all those ideas, Pat Clark will, and provide us with a set of recommendations to consider for ways to continue to try and make senior year special for the class of 2020.
Meg, when parents have questions or just community members have questions, what's the best way for them to reach out to the right member of your staff to try to get an answer?
So if parents have questions, what I've been advising, I'm always happy to take a parent question. Parents can email me. My email is pretty simple. It's meg@mybps.us. So they can email me. But if a parent has a specific question about their child's learning, the best point of contact in this context and environment is certainly their teacher. So teachers have office hours. Every teacher has posted office hours, 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday. That's a time they're available to talk with parents, with students. So we always ask parents to, first contact their child's teacher. Then to contact the building principals. Building principals don't have office hours. They're available throughout the day, so that obviously the best way is through email at this point. They should email their child's principal. And on our website, we have that information posted, but as I'm talking this through with you, I should probably make that a little more visible on our COVID-19 page so that families have sort of a one-stop place to go to get contact information. But they should certainly contact the building principals. I do want to point out that on Monday, Mark, we're put together 3 comprehensive surveys, one for families, one for educators and staff, and one for students in grades 6 through 12. And we're going to send that out via our Blackboard Connect system to families and educators. And then students will receive it through their school email account. But it's our way to seek feedback and input in terms of, we want to check in. How is remote learning going? What can we do as a school system to improve that experience for families, educators, and students? We'll just continually improve what we're able to do with remote learning, and we want to base our improvement efforts on the feedback from those groups, because it's very important that remote learning is new for all of us, and we want to make those adjustments based on what families and students and educators feel is necessary at this time.
Okay. Well, anything else, Meg, at this point for our viewing audience?
I don't think so at this time. Again, just would encourage people to watch for those surveys and, take the few minutes necessary to fill them out so that we can have that feedback, and keep giving us feedback. Again, I would encourage people to email me, email building principals, just keep that feedback coming. We know we're asking quite a bit of our families to do learning at home, particularly when parents are the home or they're trying to work remotely at home. Trying to balance all of this is unique and is just dependent upon each family's circumstance. So we're here to help. I want our parents to know that we are here to help. So if there are ways that you need us to help, please be in touch, because that's what we're here for.
Well, thank you for all you've done. You and I certainly work together very closely on all community issues. And I know I'll have you back with me as we progress, into the summer months and hopefully out of this situation and into a recovery mode. So thank you so much, Megan. Stay well.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, great to talk to you.
You too.
So at this point, I'm just going to continue with communications. I really want to use this opportunity on Channel 18 to talk about current issues, such as what we just did with Meg Mayo Brown. This is the first time, I've done this during this event. We're very much in a response mode to this COVID-19 situation. It's important for our community to know that we did not close for business. You just heard from our superintendent that they are continuing with educating our students. Town Hall did not close. We actually at this point have over 180 people working remotely, whether it's processing licenses or permits or taxes, etc. We have our police out there. We have our Public Works Department working daily. So it is our intent to continue to do this throughout this situation. Many people think because we physically closed buildings and moved into a new realm of service, which is very commonly called contactless service, that we are closed, and that is not the case. It has not been the case since we moved into this particular situation. And it's certainly been an adjustment. We appreciate our public's patience as we move through this. You can certainly meet with any of our staff who work for the town. Much of it is by appointment. So you just need to contact us via the many, many methods, whether it's social media, whether it's regular email, telephone call, etc. We'll set up an appointment, and we follow proper protocol before we meet face to face, certainly social distancing and, and other questions related to whether or not there may be issues for exposure during this health crisis. But yes, we are still here. We are working diligently. And I will share with you that there will be many changes as a result of the situation that we have been working on, we have been responding to. And I can't thank all of our staff. And I have to point out certainly our police department and fire departments are frontline on this emergency response. Our health division, certainly frontline. And then all of those who are trying to provide that normal service that we do to keep things moving. Please anticipate many changes once we move from response to recovery. And please ask. You can reach us by all the methods that I've just described and prior to Meg described. You can email, call, text, use social media. But many people think that we are going to be able to go back to the way that we used to do business. And I can tell you we will not be able to do that. We are going to look for you to purchase your beach stickers and your transfer station stickers and your other permits and licenses online, by mail, and that will be the primary means of us being able to distribute those here forward. And we're not looking to go back to the way that we used to do it. And so please be advised of that. We're going to be reaching out to our second homeowners who come here during the summer season and communicate with them as well. They need to understand that it is different this year. We will not be having volunteers at the Youth and Community Center selling beach stickers this year. You know, and many of our facilities, we have put a statement at the beginning of the purchase of your slip this year, or paying for your slip, or paying for your golf membership, that you do it at your own risk. And in every case, there is that opportunity to avoid that fee. We don't know when our facilities will reopen. We have been one of the few communities, for example, in Massachusetts, that have kept our beaches open. The state's closed state beaches. Many communities have closed their beaches. We are actively working on how we will open our beaches for the season. Now, please carefully watch the orders of our governor, because that will weigh heavily into the way that we will provide service during this emergency. And when we're told that we can't allow for gatherings of more than 10 people, and one of the underlying precautionary measures is to exercise social distancing, we will adhere to that. And we feel as though it is being accomplished at our beaches. We had to close our recycling center because as much as people were out at our transfer station, because as much as people wanted to feel as though they were following social distancing, they were not. We were not able to maintain that precautionary measure, and therefore we've closed it through May 4th. And if the governor extends it, it'll stay closed until the governor allows us to reopen that facility. The golf course is closed because of a governor's order. And so we will be looking at, can we bring forward a plan that will allow for the safe use of any and all of these facilities into the future, but know that if we can't comply, we will be forced to close additional facilities. We're certainly looking at all of the activity that we want to see occur coming up on this spring and summer season. We are going to try to accommodate it. There are many unknowns out there, whether it be our leisure program and summer rec programs. We again all know that the governor has closed daycare facilities through the 29th. We know our schools are closed through the end of the school year. Both directly impact the programs that we offer through our recreation department. And so that will further complicate the services that we will offer in the future. The best thing you can do in these unknown times relevant to programs and services is to reach out to us and ask. We are trying to constantly communicate in an effective way, but when there is question, please don't run with information that isn't from a valid source. That happens all the time. I receive daily, sometimes hourly, communications that I heard that, and I will ask, well, from what was the source of that? Because that isn't what we're doing. And so I think it's important that our public feel comfortable, our businesses, our residents, our visitors feel comfortable at any time with any question to ask that question. It's simple to reach me by email. That's an easy way. You can certainly call, and there are people who are answering the phones normal hours. My office is 508-862-4610, but you can find any of the offices, and there are people answering the phones normal hours, and they will help you to get the answers you need. So please don't hesitate to do that. I think it's important that we continue to communicate with you in these changing times. And I don't believe that this will end with the lifting of this stay-at-home order that the governor has put out for certainly non-essential services. And I don't think it'll end on May 4th, because we're going to move from a health crisis to an economic recovery challenge. And I think that will take multiple fiscal years. So please work with us. We appreciate your patience as we implement change. And in doing so, public health and safety will always be our priority. But we've got to do it with sound economic principles and with effective communication, or else we will not be successful. So we will do our best. I hope to have other guests in the future Zoom with me and communicate with you through Channel 18 so that you can hear the current issues and the challenges and how we are going to recover from this and move forward and get back to normal life. So I thank you for taking the time to view this, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future.